Hello and welcome back to ERU, where we round up the biggest results and talking points from across European football. Joining me today on this Monday morning, it's Michael McCubbin. McCubbs, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Dukes. Not too bad at all. Played some football on the weekend. Been doing that a bit more recently. First real run of games I've had since COVID. So yeah, feeling good about that. And yeah, great weekend of football.
Win for United as well.
Good win for United. Yeah, promising performances in spells. And yeah, just loads of great football this weekend. Actually, I haven't even caught up with a lot of it, but some crazy score lines. Watched a bit of the F1 last night. Watched the highlights of that. That was pretty mad as well. So yeah, pretty jam-packed weekend. How about you, Dukes?
Absolutely, yeah. Hell of a title race in the F1 and hell of a title race all across Europe in lots of the competitions as well, particularly Serie A really heating up this weekend, which we will cover in due course. But yeah, I'm good. I was in Scotland this weekend, staying at a friend's house. Long way to go. Didn't watch a lot of football, but caught up with the key results last night from across Europe. And let's kick off with our story of the week. And it's a big one concerning Everton manager Rafa Benitez and a potential replacement. What's going on with this one, McCubbs?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Everton in a bit of a mess at the moment. Marcel obviously leaving his position as director of football over the weekend. And yeah, stories have also emerged that the club are considering sacking Rafa Benitez. No surprise there. And replacing him, though, this is a bit of a surprise, replacing him with Jose Mourinho. Personally, I feel this is a bit far-fetched, but nevertheless, it's worth exploring the reasons as to perhaps why they'd want him. Everton have obviously lost 6 of their last 7 games. Obviously had that really good first month of the season, but haven't won since September the 25th. You know, it's coming up to what, like 2-3 month kind of time frame now. In that time, they've only scored 5 and conceded 17. Obviously lost, by 5 goals to Watford, or lost, was it 5-2, 5-3 to Watford?
5-2, yeah.
Conceded 3 against City and then 4 against Liverpool. I think that performance against Liverpool was particularly damning. So yeah, 2 points from their last 8 games. That's 4 fewer than the next worst, Watford, in the same period. So yeah, this is really relegation form for them, and pretty bad for a side managed by a manager who's really built up a reputation over his long managerial career for being a very kind of safe pair of hands in Rafa Benitez. And obviously it doesn't help that he wasn't a very popular appointment to begin with, for very obvious reasons. And yeah, like I said, Marcel has left the club now, obviously appointed all the way back in May 2018, and initially was really impressed the owner Farhad Moshiri. Led to a promotion to the board. Nevertheless, though, there's always been a sense that he's not necessarily had the final say in transfers. £300 million has been spent in that time. Over 500 million has been spent since Moshiri took over in 2016. And I think I was reading somewhere that I think really Marcel Brands' project was kind of around the time of Marco Silva being appointed. Obviously, they made a lot of investments in the side then, but arguably made some of the smartest investments in the side around then. But their transfer policy since then and since Moshiri's taken over, despite having the best intentions, has been muddled to say the least, and obviously culminating in them not being able to spend almost anything due to FFP in the summer. But Dukes, let's get on to the story at hand. Do you think Mourinho would be a good appointment for Everton?
No, absolutely not, to be honest. I mean, he'd be a Hollywood appointment. He'd garner a lot of headlines. Obviously, Moshiri would probably be very pleased with it, similar to when he managed to bring in Ancelotti, a 3-time Champions League winner, of course. But yeah, Mourinho has been making most of his headlines over the last few years for alienating squad members and for playing fairly poor football. So I just don't really get this. His Roma side this season have lost 7 of their 16 league games, including 4 of the last 6. They now sit 6th, but they're 9 points behind the top 4 already. And while it looked pretty difficult for him to get them back into the top 4 this season, given the fact they were 16 points off it last year, to be already this far off it and to have such disappointing results so far, and some issues with, between him and his squad, Zaniolo criticising members of the bench, etc. I don't think this is a good idea one bit. Their latest results saw them lose 3-0 to Inter in a game they created 0.5 xG to Inter's 1.7. That's their third consecutive game creating less than 1 xG, and they're the 6th best side in Italy according to expected points, so they haven't really been unlucky either. And yeah, the game against Inter, far too easy for Inter Milan to get. They sort of cruised to a 3-0 victory, to be totally honest. Scored from a corner, which was particularly damning for Rui Patricio, who's not had a great last few weeks. Lorenzo Pellegrini's now injured. It really doesn't look great for Mourinho at Roma, and it hasn't looked great for him at any of his last 3 clubs really. He hasn't won over 58% of his games at a club since he left Real Madrid in June 2013, and his spells at Chelsea, Man United and Spurs particularly ended disastrously. But let's face it, he could probably improve Everton in the short term. They've been a dreadful watch this season, although they have had a lot of injuries, including to Calvert-Lewin. Richarlison has missed some games, etc. But they rank 17th for possession and 17th for pass accuracy. They seem to lack a lot of quality, particularly in the middle of the park. But as I said, it's not just Rafa Benitez's fault. I was listening to a podcast last week where an Everton fan said, he's the tip of the iceberg in terms of the problems at the club. He wouldn't be in their top 5 biggest problems. It's been a lack of clear thinking, as McCubbs intonated at the start, and their transfer policy has been particularly bad. They've wasted a lot of money. I mean, Iwobi, £27 million, Moise Kean, £24 million, Bamin, £22 million, Andre Gomez, 22.5. I mean, Bamin and Gomez particularly unfortunate with injury, of course, but they were all signed in 2019-20 across that season. And going further back, Sigurdsson, over £40 million, Cenk Tosun was over 20, Theo Walcott was over 20, only lasted a couple of years there. Like they just have had no clear idea of who they're targeting and for what reason, what sort of style of play they're trying to do. And they've just gone through managers, like no tomorrow really under Moshiri. So I don't think Rafa Benitez is the root of their problems, but I really wouldn't be surprised if he was fired in the next few weeks unless results picked up. And Mourinho, he'd probably jump at the opportunity to get back into the Premier League, especially with his season at Roma sort of meandering really, not going particularly badly but not going great either. So yeah, I can see Rafa Benitez being fired, but I don't think Mourinho is the man to take over. But guys, do you agree with us? Do you think Mourinho would be a good appointment? And do you think Rafa Benitez deserves to be fired? Get the answers to those questions in the comments down below. And let's move on to our result of the week, which is an absolute cracker.
Our result of the week comes from @Zidane's Barber on Twitter. First of all, congratulations for getting that Twitter handle. What a handle that is. And yeah, there's nowhere else we can really go but the Bundesliga title races there, Dukes.
Yeah, absolute cracker. I mean, yeah, shout out Zidane's barber as well. I think me and Zidane share a barber, along with Pep Guardiola as well, actually. But yeah, we actually had a lot of choice for this result of the week. There were some wild results all across Europe. So quickly, Hellas Verona beat Venezia 4-3, Lazio beat Sampdoria 3-1, Strasbourg managed to beat Nice 3-0, Atalanta beat Napoli 3-2 in a crucial game for that Serie A title race. But yesterday, it was almost all topped by Freiburg beating Gladbach 6-0. Gladbach have had some mental results throughout the year. Of course, they knocked out Bayern Munich out of the DFB Pokal, winning 5-0 as well. But yeah, really up and down fortunes for Adi Hütter at Gladbach so far. But we're staying in the Bundesliga for our result of the week, though, because it probably had the most bearing on a title race this weekend. Bayern beat Dortmund 3-2 in an absolute thriller on Saturday. The winning goal was scored from Lewandowski from the spot, but it was hugely controversial after Hummels was adjudged to have handled the ball when trying to head the ball clear from a corner. He wasn't even looking at the ball, but I could see why in this VAR age it had been given, to be honest, because his hand was in front of his face and it was in an unnatural position, and because he wasn't looking at the ball, that's not really an excuse to have your arm there, and he was trying to push past the player to head the ball clear. So I didn't really get the fallout afterwards, which included Jude Bellingham speaking to the media and saying he wasn't surprised with referee Felix Zweier having served a 6-month ban for match fixing in 2005 that the result went against them. Bild are now reporting that Marco Haas of the DFB has filed a criminal complaint for defamation. He's likely to be hit with a huge fine and potentially even a ban, Jude Bellingham. But the latest information will probably be coming out, after we film this video. But yeah, controversial scenes from Jude Bellingham. Did appreciate a player being honest, but I think he might have overstepped the line there. But this was an epic game, largely defined by mistakes. For the first, Brandt easily turned Alphonso Davies. Hummels' pass was then closed down disastrously by Thomas Müller for the equaliser, which was eventually scored by Lewandowski. Guerreiro's clearance came off Hummels, a bit of a hapless performance from Hummels for Koeman's goal, and then Upamecano failed to control a ball in the box, and then Bellingham fed Haaland, and then of course there was the penalty. But it was probably a deserved victory for Bayern. It was a hugely entertaining game. They created 17 chances with 6 on target to Dortmund's 12 and 4. XG had it at 2.4 to 1.4 in their favour. Gregor Kobel had to make some excellent saves in goal. So, McCubs, I mean, what does this mean for the title race, basically? It's far from over, really.
Yeah, it is far from over, and I think we've seen signs from Dortmund in recent weeks that they are a better team than perhaps many thought at the start of the season. Especially with Haaland back, especially with Donyell Malen, contributing to the side. Obviously, Jude Bellingham is impressive as ever. Julian Brandt is, I thought, was impressive in this game as well. So as an attacking force, I think Dortmund are really exciting, but it's their defence that lets them down, isn't it? Like we saw it in this game. Yeah, like you said, Mats Hummels had a nightmare match. And yeah, I think the penalty was kind of typified that, so it's rare to see such an experienced defender make such a poor decision in clearing the ball out of the box. I just don't think, there was really much excuse for that, and I can see why Dortmund were annoyed in some ways at that decision, because it is still a contentious decision in some ways, because they should have had a penalty themselves earlier in the second half. So I think that's probably where the frustration comes from. And yeah, as for Bellingham, I think this is he's a young player, and I think this is a big mistake that he'll come to learn from in terms of his kind of how he conducts himself in interviews, and I'm sure he will learn from it, because I think up until now he's always come across incredibly mature.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is far from over for Dortmund, but I think psychologically this is massive for Bayern. Like, I mean, Dortmund went into this game 1 point behind them. They're now 4 points behind them. Obviously, that's still a very they can still make up that. But this is the first time, in 8 Bundesliga games they've dropped points at home, so their home form has been incredible this season. But yeah, 22 league goals they've conceded. Only 6 sides have conceded more. 10th best defence in the division by expected goals against. That is just not how you win a title. And yeah, like we said, like Hummels has been a bit of a problem. He's down to 58 passes per game. That's down from 74 in his first season. 3.5 long balls is down from 4.5. He's now dribbled past nearly once a game. That's the most since 2014-15. So he's really not having a great campaign. So I think, that's where Marco Rose really needs to address things, is in the back line. And I don't know, like January.
Maybe defensive midfield as well, actually.
Yeah, potentially. Obviously, like I know you were not a fan at all of them selling Thomas Delaney in the summer. We've seen like Bellingham is playing in a much more advanced role now, and obviously Dahoud I thought was really good last term, but is he the man to kind of lead that midfield? I don't know whether he necessarily has all the tools. And January's a tough time to buy defensive players. I think if you need someone to boost your attacking numbers, then January can be a good time, or especially if you're a club lower down the table. But for a title race, it's not the easiest transfer window to navigate. But having said that, Bellingham was excellent on the night. 3 tackles and interceptions, 2 aerial duels. 2 dribbles, 2 key passes, 3 shots, 2 assists. Obviously, great little cutback for Haaland for his excellent finish. But the man of the match probably has to go to Lewandowski, doesn't it? Thought he just completely steamrolled their defensive midfield throughout the game. Completed 5 dribbles, created 2 chances, 5 shots, 2 goals. Now has 27 goals in 21 games this season. Just crazy stuff from him, and let's hope he can carry it on next year and finally win the Ballon d'Or. And his record against Dortmund is incredible as well. 26 goals and 3 assists in 25 appearances, which is pretty damning considering they're his former club. But yeah, I think I feel like this was a big result. I think Dortmund, if they'd won this game, would have been really confident going into this kind of winter period. But I don't know. I think it's a psychological blow for them. I'm not sure what you think, Dukes.
Yeah, definitely. I think we said it on Continental Club. I think they've only now won 4 of their last 19 meetings against Bayern, and they're conceding far too many goals in this fixture. And if you're effectively ceding 6 points per season to your closest rivals, it's really difficult for you to win a title. And I totally agree. I think, Marco Rosa has some question marks over his side's defending right now. There's speculation that Edin Terzic could be brought in at any time, really. I don't think Marco Rose should be fired. He's not the sort of manager that you just get rid of after a shaky start defensively, because they are still in the title race, but the Champions League form hasn't been nearly good enough as well. They're now out of that competition. So slightly concerning times for Dortmund fans. But Bayern fans, do you think you guys got slightly fortunate in this game? Do you think that Luca Hernandez foul on, it was Marco Rose, I believe, do you think that should have been a penalty? And what do you make of Bellingham's comments after the game? Get all those questions answered in the comments down below, and let's move on to our star of the week. Our star of the week, we had a lot of choices, but we've actually plumped for Eder Militao, and this was suggested by @Antonio Sormao. What's gone on here, McCubs?
Yeah, I mean, quick shout out to other stars of the week, because there were a few. Martin Terrier got a hat-trick in Rennes' 5-0 victory over Saint Etienne. They're now second in the table. Yeah, really impressive form from them recently. Patrick Schick also got 4 goals in Leverkusen's 7-1 win over Greuther Fürth. Potentially, the worst Bundesliga side of all time. And then Ciro Immobile got a brace in Lazio's 3-1 win over Sampdoria that we were talking about earlier. So yeah, some big goals from goal scorers over the weekend. Big goals, big performances from goal scorers over the weekend. But yeah, given it was such a big game in the La Liga title race, yeah, I think it's time we gave some flowers to Eder Militao. 23-year-old was absolutely brilliant in Real Madrid's 2-0 win over Real Sociedad, alongside David Alaba, who I thought was brilliant as well. I think they're striking up a really good partnership at the back for Real. 5 tackles, which was the most on the pitch, 2 interceptions, joint most on the pitch, 10 clearances, which is 3 times more than anyone else, 3 aerial duels, which was second, and he created a chance as well. I think in particularly a big performance for him, because himself and Alaba were coming up against Alexander Isak and Alexander Sorloth up front, who are aerially a really tough duo to battle with, and considering that, I thought they dealt with them superbly. I think Eder Militao is carrying on the kind of form that we saw from him back end of last term, where he filled in really well for Varane and Ramos, him and Nacho. So yeah, and obviously Real have been superb going forward this season. Defensively not as good in the early weeks, but I think this is a real statement from that back line that they are very serious and could carry Real to a title this year.
Yeah, definitely as well. I think the fact that Alaba's left-footed as well, it really opens up that pitch when Ferland Mendy's on the left-hand side as well. But yeah, Eder Militao was brilliant in this game. And it's great to see after a really tricky start to life at Real Madrid for him. He only started 23 league games over his first 2 seasons. Obviously, he was trying to displace Rafa Benitez, one of the best centre-backs of his generation, and Sergio Ramos, arguably the best centre-back of this century, really. So the former Porto man had a tough time getting into the team, but as McCubb says, he's been brilliant since about February time. He's been really, really good. And this season, he's making 3.6 tackles and interceptions per 90. He's got an 81% tackle success rate. That's really, really good. He wins over 65% of his aerial duels as well. 90% of his passes he completes. And he's 5th for passes into the final third in the squad as well, which you'd expect. I mean, David Alaba is really that progressive passer in that back line, but Eder Militao is more than chipping in. And it obviously helps when Vinicius Jr. continues his red-hot form at the other end too. The 21-year-old netted his 10th La Liga goal in 16 appearances this term after exchanging passes with Luka Jovic, who had to come on after Benzema went off with an injury, which doesn't look too serious, thank goodness. But yeah, it was great to see Jovic chip in with a goal and an assist in this game. Really promising performance from him. And Real Madrid are now 8 points clear of second place Sevilla. I mean, McCubbs, can you see anything derailing Real Madrid this term?
Not right now, I don't think. I think for me, I think they went into the season as slight favourites, and considering obviously Barcelona have never really got going this season, or Atletico Madrid have been quite disappointing. Really, I think they've got the best squad. I think they've got the best system. I think they've got the best players playing right now. You have Vinicius and Benzema in the kind of form that they've been in. It's really hard to stop them. And yeah, I can only see them maintaining this lead for the time being. I think it will take a really drastic turn of events for Real to give up the title this year. I think it's very much theirs for the taking.
Absolutely, and they've got some fantastic depth now. I mean, Fede Valverde's not a regular starter, Camavinga not a regular starter, Rodrigo, Asensio, they'll probably alternate as well. And if Vinicius Junior keeps this form going and Benzema's injury's not too serious, I'm with you. I went for Atletico Madrid at the start of the season. I'm very happy to be proved wrong on that. I think they've been absolutely dreadful. But guys, what do you make of the La Liga title race? Do you see anyone toppling Real Madrid or even getting close to them this season? Answer that in the comments down below. And that's all we've got time for on ERU for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. There's plenty of goals and talking points to talk about. Potentially a defamation case as well. Who'd have thought that on a Monday morning on the 6th of December we'd be talking about defamation, but that's just the crazy world of European football right now. McCovs, if they've enjoyed this show, what should they go and watch now?
They should go and watch Continental Club from Friday. We discussed January transfers, but actually what they should go and check out is yesterday's EFD Explained. Superb script from Henry, really, really good stuff. And a great edit from Danny on French football and hooliganism. Does French football have a hooliganism problem? Yeah, super interesting. Goes really deep into kind of French kind of social and economic history and the kind of history of French fan culture and all yeah, it's really good stuff. So go and check that out.
I'm looking forward to watching that. People were going nuts for that in the FD WhatsApp group when they watched that through over the weekend. So yeah, well done to Henry and Danny. Great work as usual. Guys, thank you very much for watching and we'll catch you later in the week. Bye!